Yeah, welcome to our session, which is about kind of connecting libraries and the cultural sector, as we know that libraries are an integral part of our cultural ecology and deliver such amazing work across our region. And sometimes I think we don't necessarily work together as strongly as we could do, or certainly make that visible. So we thought that this would be a great opportunity as part of our CRU session to introduce and hear from some of our fabulous libraries working in the region and how that's happening and what the ecology looks like and how you might need to connect in with them. So today we've got sort of three areas of library service. We've got Lucy Carlton-Walker, who's the creative director of Warwickshire Libraries and an MP, a national portfolio organisation. We've also got Sue. I've lost you, Sue Ball, who's head of libraries and communities at Staffordshire County Council, and she's joined by her colleague Kerry Hutchins, who is libraries development manager at Staff County Council. And we've also got Kate Bunting, who's strategic lead for culture at Solihull Borough Council. So we'll hear from all three of those people. Those guys. I'm trying to let people in at the same time. And then we'll go into some questions and answers. So if you've got questions that arrive whilst you're thinking about it and while they're talking, please feel free to just pop them in the chat and we'll come back to them. We are going to try and make sure we've got time for questions at the end. And I think that's it. Is there anything else I need to add? We're recording. And for those who are new that have just arrived into the session. And so if you don't want to have your kind of face on screen, then please feel free to turn your camera off. And I'm going to hand straight over to you, Lucy. And I know I'm on screen share.
Thank you. So had some tech issues, so Erica is going to share my PowerPoint for me, hopefully if it works. So hello everyone, as Erica said, I'm Lucy Carlton-Walker and I'm the Creative Director for Warwickshire Libraries. So I'm gonna start and then hand over to my fantastic colleagues who have joined me today. So if you could do the next slide then, please. So what I'm going to start with is talking about Warwickshire Libraries. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, and then I'm going to talking about us as a service, but just to give you an overview. Then I'm going to talk about our MPO, and then a bit more about how I feel we can better connect and collaborate. So first of all, and I really hope this is something that everyone knows, joining a library is free. So my first shout out is please join your local library if you haven't already, because they are marvellous. We do have a wide range of books and resources, as I'm sure you can appreciate, and we really do try and reflect all of our community and everything we do. And we also have really localized collections as well. So for us in Warwickshire, we actually have a George Eliot collection, which is actually internationally renowned, which is lovely. We also have digital services as well. And I think it's really important to talk about things like tablet loans that have data preloaded into them, and also things like Let's Make, where we have 3D printers, electric sewing machines. We even have a library robot who is very fun and dances. And yeah, true. And then we have our virtual library office. So that's the other thing. Yes, you can be a physical member of the library, but actually you can completely virtually use all of our resources. And things like Theory Test Pro that you might not think we have in Ancestry are really fantastic. And our events, and I really hate saying this, but it's very true. We really are a cradle to grave service. We're there for every person at every moment in their lives. And all of this, what I'm talking about, is across all library services. It isn't unique to Warwickshire at all. But we do have something that is, appropriate for every person to engage with. And things that we have is we still have mobile library services to reach our rural communities, a home library service for those who are not able to physically come into our spaces. And we're still quite lucky in Warwickshire that we have a school library service. I'm not going to play it now, but we do have a lovely film on YouTube if anyone wanted to have a 2-minute introduction to Warwickshire Libraries. But if we could go on to the next slide, please. So what the next slide is showing is what a year in Warwickshire Libraries looks like, just to give you a taste. So we had over 1 million visits last year to our libraries and mobile libraries, which I'm sure anyone in the arts and culture sector, that is huge and fantastic to see. And as you can see, what we've done is, I'm not going to go into the detail, but we look at our learning offer, our community health and wellbeing, and our digital and information. And whether that's volunteers, the activities for children, young people, the amount of people using our tablet loans, etc. So it really is, as we're, sort of a diverse offer for everyone to engage with. But if we go on to the next slide, I'm going to now go into a bit more focus on Warwickshire Libraries as an MPO. So I'm sure a lot of you know in the arts and cultural sector what an MPO is and how we're funded by Arts Council. So we're part of one of the newest MPOs. So we started in 23. And what our purpose is to reach new audiences, so those aren't currently engaging with libraries within Warwickshire. And we really want to focus on different target areas. And we really want to be innovative and data-led and a high quality cultural experiences in that offer. And it's really about, we have that core library offer. So everything we're doing is enhancing that. We're very lucky because we're the only library MPO in the West Midlands. That puts us in a very unique position, and only one of 16 in England. So libraries as MPOs are very small in the grand kind of MPO portfolio. We think we make up about 1%. And it really does. If anyone people think you might have millions when you're an MPO. We don't, just to say. But we do have, what we do is we're very good value for money, I think that. And we provide a very much, as an MPO, it gives you that status in a strategic position. And we are really about delivering arts, culture and creativity. And if you go on to the next slide, please, we do this through a very small but mighty team of 3 of us. And I believe we're change makers. So I know my colleague Anjana is here. So Dr. Anjana Chauhan is the creative producer. She makes everything I'm talking about happen and is amazing. And then we also have our creative coordinator, Louise Minton, who again, she's just phenomenal in what she does. But also what we have is we're embedded into the library engagement and development team. So across library services, we all have different names for things, but you will always have somebody who's in charge of that engagement, of that development, of that side of things. And so my role has been to kind of support the wider library engagement and development team, and we work alongside fantastic colleagues, Jess, Steph and Amy. So yes, we're small but mighty team. So next slide, please. So then we go on to what are our objectives? What's the point and purpose of our MPO? So we want to celebrate Warwickshire's rich heritage, our diverse communities, and we do a lot of co-creation to achieve this. And co-creation is something that's very much embedded into libraries. And I'm sure my colleagues will talk about this as well. We want to develop partnerships, and I'm really keen to position Warwickshire Libraries region nationally. So it's brilliant to have this opportunity regionally to talk to everyone. So thank you. And we really want to be bold, innovative and dynamic in our approach. And we do have a strategic focus on what we call creating opportunity areas, which is particularly Nuneaton, Bedworth and North Warwickshire, but we do offer different activities across the county as well. So next slide then, please. So then we go into activity strands. So I don't want to spend, because I could talk for hours about these, but I won't. So we have different activity strands. I'm just going to give you a taste of what we're doing. So Warwickshire Voices around celebrating diverse communities. So what we're really trying to do is challenge those stigmas and stereotypes. And we're working in partnership with Heritage and Culture Warwickshire and their archives. So we have this Hidden Stories programme where to date we've worked with military spouses, young care leavers, the Gypsy, Roman traveller communities, and currently working with the LGBTQI+ community. And it's all about reshaping and resharing their stories, co-creating how they want to do that in a way that's right for them. Then we go on to Warwickshire Goes Green, so we support environmental responsibility, and something that we're particularly proud of is our free annual family-friendly festival called Park Life Reads. So this year it was in Nuneaton in Riversley Park in August. Unfortunately, just by sheer coincidence, as these things happen, there was a far-right protest happening on the same day. We went ahead, we obviously made sure it was safe to do so, etc. But we still had over 500 people attend, and it was phenomenal. And when we say it's completely free, it really is, from the ice creams to the lunches to the face painting, etc. But also it was a huge festival that engaged in silk painting. We had theatre productions that were bringing alive Shakespeare with children. We had henna, we had yoga, we even had a Shetland pony. We had our mobile library service there as well. And so if anybody's interested in being kind of part of this big family festival called Park Life Reads, we're putting together a date now for August. So please do let us know, because we want to build and develop that. And we have also something called the Big Green Schools Tour. So this is about supporting, through arts and creativity, schools to become to kind of have that eco schools and to look at how we can engage them with that. We then come to Warwickshire Roots, which is around empowering communities. So some of you might be aware of fun palaces, which is community takeovers. So we did this a few weeks ago for our youth advisory board, and by being true to co-creation, it was up to them what they did. And they choose dental health, which we didn't really expect them to choose, but do you know what? It was incredibly popular. And we've actually had some really amazing press release off of it, and lots of people getting in touch being like, we want to be involved in this. So we're probably going to rerun it, because it was really successful. So the joy of co-creation is it works. And we also have the internal libraries Dragon Den. So it's really about empowering staff. So what we've been able to offer is the opportunity for staff to develop things like sip and paint. We've had escape rooms in libraries, we've had rock choirs, all sorts of things. And we've got some really, now that we're in our second year, it's really, staff are really thinking really creatively around that. And then we go into Warwickshire Bards. We couldn't really be Warwickshire without talking about Shakespeare, could we? We do love old Will. So what we want to do is celebrate the past, present and future. So one of the things that we've been doing is touring different folios around all of our 18 libraries. So one of the things that we've done is through the amazing Dr. Angela Chohan, who's my amazing colleague, she has edited all of Shakespeare plays into 20-minute versions that a minimum of 8 people can perform, which is phenomenal. And it's beautifully illustrated. So at the moment, we're touring that around our libraries, and people are illustrating it and creating like our own living, breathing artwork. So we've also been working with the Young Poet Laureate programme. So this is something, again, that Library Service already do, but what we've been able to do is enhance it. So now actually more young people than ever before have applied this year from further across the county, which is amazing. And we're offering a series of open mic nights. And we're even trialling like an afternoon one in the October half term for young people. So again, giving those spaces for people to be able to develop. So next slide, please. So then we go on to our next strand. So we've got lots of strands in our activity programme. So now we go on to Warwickshire Make. So this is about expanding our digital outreach. And in particular, we've got Librarium, a Warwickshire Libraries podcast. So that's actually being hosted by 2 members of our library staff, and we're busy recording all the sessions now. So that's going to be launching next year in October during Green Libraries Week. But we've got a really lovely jingle, so look out for like our promo because it's very nice. And then we've got Warwickshire After Hours. So everything I'm talking about is completely free, but we do have this small kind of element of income generation. So we're doing Body in the Library, which is murder mystery events. Some of you might know ACTA, Court of Fawn and Roses, and that's we've been doing a quiz. We did a quiz for that, and we're going to repeat that. And we actually got audiences of sort of 20 to 30-year-olds who've never been into libraries really before, and we're kind of blown away by the offer. We've also been in Harry Potter. There's Doctor Who quiz coming up, all sorts of things. But what's brilliant is kind of piloting that you can, have that income generation. We've had bars, etc., and they just bring in a new and diverse audience. And also people travel. We had someone come to a Shakespeare quiz that came from Windsor or Winchester, can't remember, one of the wins. So people do travel if they think it's worth coming for. And then Warwickshire Read, so growing our cultural offer. So we've got Book Bingo, which is about reading for pleasure across the year, annual bookmark competition. But what's amazing is we've got 100 of entries because it's for children, it's for young people, it's for adults, and it's also Warwickshire County Council staff. And what they create is beautiful. So we're going to be launching that in Green Libraries Week at the end of the month. And then we've got Warwickshire Move, so how we can enhance the health and wellbeing offer. So we've been looking at lots of dance, movement in our spaces from early years, for all ages, family workshops, young people, but we've been looking particularly at yoga for wellbeing. And so what this is really looking at is how people can access kind of in areas where where usually there's a cost attached to that kind of sessions, how they can come in and access it in library spaces. And then Warwickshire Eat, so that's taste and create. So what we've been doing is looking at supporting holiday hunger during the school holiday periods for primary age children, really around exploring the kind of what they eat and being healthy eating, and also gifting cookbooks and where to go for further information. So if you go on to the next slide, here you can see our success. So for our year 2 delivery, we had 8,510 participants. And what I'm really pleased to be able to announce is that we actually, during quarter 2, so halfway through this year, have already achieved the same amount of participant numbers. So as an NPO, we're growing and diversifying our offer. We couldn't do anything I'm talking about without the amazing partners and creative practitioners that we work with. And we do a lot of commissioning as well. And we make sure that it's an open, fair and transparent process. And that's really important to us. And we are data-led as well. So as you can see here, one of the big things we do is reaching the new audiences. So everything that we do has a 20% baseline. So we are actually exceeding that in year 2 is at 23%. And also the baselines of the kind of improved attitudes and increased happiness is 60%. And what we're particularly proud of is 11% increase in Warwickshire Library visits. So actually as a whole, as an NPO, we're really supporting the whole development of a service. And I think that's really important, to understand that kind of the bigger impact you have. So next slide then, please. It's always nice when Arts Council say nice things about you, isn't it? So I thought I'd just share these. So for us, we've been seen as outstanding, exceptional, best practice in the arts and cultural sector, but also really success in testing of new methods and approaches, which is fantastic that we're doing that as a library service. So next slide then, please. So what does this mean as libraries as cultural hubs? So for me, libraries are cultural hubs because we're springboards for arts, culture and creativity. For a lot of people, coming into a library space will be their first time, maybe completely accidentally, that they'll experience poetry, that they'll have the opportunity to see opera, that they might see a rock choir, they might see ballet dancing. We've had Chinese fan dance workshops. I could go on and on and on. As you can see in these pictures, there's henna, there's all sorts happening. So for a lot of people, it'd be that first experience of those activities, which will then hopefully springboard for them to go into, a lot of our buildings, for example, have are shared with museums and art galleries. They might not have gone into those spaces before. They might then feel that they want to experience going to the theatre in a different way, shape or form. So really it is about these first experience and springboards that libraries offer as cultural hubs. We have that place-based approach and a hyper-local in a way that other kind of arts and cultural venues aren't necessarily. And it's the USP, isn't it, of libraries? So yes, we're free, but we're safe spaces. We're also warm and cool spaces, depending on the season, but all are welcome into our spaces, and we are representative of all our communities and for our communities, and that's really powerful. If you go on to the next slide, please. And we fit into many, many agendas. So for us, it's things such as I've mentioned, sort of health and well-being, education, employment, adult and family learning, and digital. It's huge, the impact we have. Poverty proofing is also another thing that is so passionate for us, and that digital divide, hence mentioning things like loaning of tablets, etc., but also making sure that people can access different opportunities, and that it's not all just reliant on how you digitally experience. And libraries add value. Hopefully you can see, and through when my colleagues speak as well, we're innovative and dynamic in our approaches and our delivery. An example for Warwickshire Libraries is we've developed a dashboard so that is telling, we want to be evidence-led, data-driven in our approach, and that is something that's incredibly important to us, and developing our own impact story, which is kind of interwoven into this presentation. And then if you go on to the next slide, this is kind of my bit of a call of action, or for everybody really. So, and it kind of echoes what Erica was saying, but libraries are part of the cultural ecosystems and infrastructure of your place. So please understand their USP and connect with them. See them beyond just a venue. Yes, we're an amazing community venue, but we're so much more than that. And I think it's understanding that, what our offer can be, that can kind of adds to what you're trying to achieve as well, instead of just being sort of like a venue to host something. I think it's about inviting us to your networking events, utilising us as case studies for best practice, understanding our different approaches and including them from the start, sort of not halfway through or near the end sometimes. For me, ultimately, to better connect and collaborate with libraries, see and work with us as a strategic partner. That's kind of my big shout out. So I'm nearly finished, you'll be glad to hear, but next slide, please. This is just if you want to keep up to date with us, just in Warwickshire Libraries, all library services have these type of things, but please do look at kind of our websites, on our socials. We have a lovely What's On. I can share a link to that in the chat. And then next slide, if anybody wants to get in contact with me, then obviously you can as well, in different ways. And Eric, I'm happy if this PowerPoint can be shared, if people would find that useful. But that's it for me. So I'm happy to leave the PowerPoint, and then shall I hand over to Sue and Kerry?
Thank you, Lucy. That's really great to hear that presentation. As it's slightly different, I want to share with you our journey to creating a cultural strategy for Staffordshire and highlight some of the work we're doing in libraries to support the strategy and the development of culture and creativity in the county. So creating a cultural strategy was a priority in the 2024-25 County Council's delivery plan. And this was because it was recognised that culture is an essential part of building a community's sense of pride, belonging and common sense of purpose. Culture adds to a sense of well-being for residents and make significant contributions to the local economy through visitors, tourism and the creative industries. It helps to encourage graduates to stay in the county after their studies have completed and businesses to relocate to the county. So at the County Council, the creation of the cultural strategy was a responsibility of the head of archives and heritage and the head of libraries and communities. And it's gone on to be the responsibility of the head of archives with support from myself. We set up a project board with representatives from Environment and Countryside, We Are Staffordshire, the Visitor Economy, Marketing and Inward Investment, and the Communications and Marketing team at the County Council. But we wanted the cultural strategy to belong to arts, sports and cultural organisations across Staffordshire, and not to be just another county council strategy. We wanted it to be collaborative and to be everybody's strategy, so everybody could have input into it. So we recognised early on that we had a huge task to complete. Staffordshire's huge organisation with lots of sports and cultural and arts organisations. So we commissioned the audience agency to assist with the research, public engagement, and to work on the draft strategy with us. There were 3 phases of work to carry out asset mapping and research, including interviews with key council staff, our county council members, councillors, our partners, our stakeholders, focus groups and surveys with members of the public, businesses, arts organisations, sports organisations. Workshops were also held to develop the cultural strategy with the project board and writing the cultural strategy. And throughout the research, sorry, I'm just going to have to ask somebody to be quiet. Can you please? This is the joys of working in an open office when people are walking around and being quite noisy. And then the audience agency helped us to write the cultural strategy. Throughout the research and engagement period, a number of themes started to emerge, and these have formed 6 strategic pillars, and behind these sit the action plan. So these strategic pillars are, we've got community engagement, which is about enabling Staffordshire communities to participate in and contribute to decision making about cultural events, activities and programmes. Accessibility and inclusion, so that the cultural offer in Staffordshire is diverse and considers the needs of individuals, groups and businesses. As Lucy said, you know, culture is for everyone. And cultural advocacy around championing of the value of culture in Staffordshire. That came out really strongly in the in the engagement that the audience agency carried out for us. Collaboration was also seen as really important, and a cultural forum with groups and organisations across Staffordshire has been set up, and together we're working on an action plan, and we're just working through what some draft KPIs for the strategy might be, which we'll be sharing with the cultural forum and getting their impact. Archives, heritage and libraries also came out quite strongly and was recognised as an important part of culture. And the final pillar was investment and funding, and continuing to attract inward investment from the private sector and seek opportunities to apply for external funding. So we're continuing to work with the Cultural Forum to shape the action plan and implement actions. I would say that the challenges really are around capacity and time. So it is quite a slow process, but we want to make sure that we get it right, and we want to make sure that it is collaborative and that everybody has their say. So I'm now going to pass over to Kerry, who's going to give you an insight into culture in our libraries and how the service is supporting delivery of the strategy.
Hello everybody, I'm also in the same office as Sue, so I apologise for the noise, and I apologise that I'll disappear in a little while because I've got another meeting. But yes, so I'm just going to talk to you about the offer that we've got in Staffordshire. We have an arts officer that we work with, and that's absolutely really great. And one of the first things that we looked at as how we're working with artists is our spaces in our libraries. What do artists, what does the cultural sector need to do activities in our libraries? So our arts officer did a huge piece of work on auditing all of our libraries, and we've got a great document that we can share with people that want to work with us. It says ceiling heights, parking, is there a space to get changed, all of the things that make the everything work, all the background things. So, and that helps us when people are coming to us to say, can we work with you? Which library do you want to work at? And then we can show them the document, and they can say, yeah, that will work. Yes, we can put up a structure where we can have a circus dangling from it, or no, we can't do that in that library, it's too short. So that's one of the things that we did to make it a lot easier to work with artists and people in the cultural section, and that's really paid off. And over the past few years, we've got some absolutely excellent activity. I know I'm biased because I work in Staffordshire Libraries, but we've had some excellent activity taking place. So just a few of them is recently we've had Dr. Dolittle interactive storytelling across our libraries for the Summer Reading Challenge. We worked with the New Vic, and we had people from the New Vic coming in, and they did little mini theatre productions through that interactive story time, and that was really great. But what we've also done is we've worked with artists to upskill our staff. So in Newcastle, the staff actually deliver the interactive story times. They dress up in the costumes, they decorate the library just like a theatre production, and then children come in and families, and we've had families queuing around outside and having to put extra sessions on because they really enjoy it, and it gives the families that wouldn't be able to access the theatre because of cost that opportunity to have that taster within the library. So we're really going quite full on with our interactive storytelling. And then we've got a wellness cafe that's been taking place at Homecroft Library. That's one of our community managed libraries, and that's how we've been working with artists who've been supporting wellness, and we've had referrals from the local mental health hospital. So outpatients get referred to us. They've been creating their work. We've had it on exhibition in Walsall art gallery, which was really exciting, and it's progressed so well that the group came together, and they've got more funding from the National Lottery to do that work. So it's about keeping that sustainability as well. We've also had the Festival of Brilliant, which didn't take place in our libraries. It took place in the Moorlands, and I know Sarah Bird's, I saw her face somewhere on this chat. So we were working with Outside Arts and our team in the north, and that's something that we can do in partnership. So things that can't happen in our libraries can still happen with our libraries and with the support with our libraries. So that happens in the summer. It's just an amazing children's festival around reading. It's just so colourful and bright. Google it or ask us, and we can send you the information if you're interested in that. But that is one of the other ways that we can work with libraries. So it's not just about what can we do inside the libraries, it's what we can do outside the libraries with libraries that are involved. And lastly, we've got something that's coming up soon with Infamous Arts, which is the toy maker for Christmas. So we're having that's going to take place in our library for families and for class visits, because that's one of the things that we're looking at as well. How can we support schools with arts and culture when their budgets are tight, where we can get the children into libraries where they can take part in these activities? That supports the schools, it supports us with those visits. So we've been working with Infamous Arts to put on a production in the end of November and December, so we're quite excited about that. So yeah, that's just a little taster of what we're doing in Staffordshire. Feel free to email me. We've got case studies coming out of our ears about it, and we're happy to share those with you.
Thanks so much, Kerry. Really appreciate you, and I know you've got to drop off, but we'll be in touch. So thank you ever so much. I'm going to hand over now to Kate.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. So yeah,
Fabulous.
Thanks, Erica. So yeah, so I'm just here to give to share some information with you about culture and libraries in Solihull, and then I'm just going to end the presentation by giving you an overview of the region in terms of libraries and who's involved, etc. So in terms of Solihull, we've just launched our first cultural strategy, a bit like Sue and Staffordshire. I'm not going to share everything about the document with you because I think some of them are fairly similar, but ours has 4 pillars, and I'm going to put the link to it in the chat. What's significant for us in Solihull was that it was our first strategy, so we've never had one before. And libraries and heritage came out very strongly in that strategy. So it's something that we are carrying forward as we move on our journey. Our piece of work at the moment is around establishing our first cultural compact. So we're bringing together people from different walks of life in terms of culture to help steer the direction of the cultural strategy. We'll be establishing some KPIs and some deliverables under that strategy, but we're really excited about where that's going to take us on our cultural journey in Solihull. And hopefully the first cultural compact meeting will take place this side of Christmas. So myself and I think Lisa, who's on the call today, are taking the lead on that, but we are super excited about the next bit of the journey. It's been a lot of hard work. Just for a plug, our strategy was written by Culture Central. So obviously they've hosted the meeting today, so it would have been shameful for me not to say anything. So yes, so that's where we are in terms of our cultural strategy. In terms of libraries, we've always seen our libraries as a starting point for accessing culture. In Solihull, we've got 13 library sites that deliver a range of different cultural activities, from your access activities through to things that are more established, heritage, local studies activities. A lot of our sites and a lot of our communities have kind of determined what needs to happen or what they would like to see happen within our library spaces. We do see our libraries as part of a significant contributor to the local cultural ecology, and not only in our neighbourhoods, but I think just as a cultural service. So the library service in Solihull employs 60 full-time equivalent staff across a range of geographies, and some specialists who deliver various different specialisms, including archives, heritage, local studies, reader development, and stock, etc. We see around 224,000 visits per year, and we have this year had 235 volunteers supporting us with our activities. We are a home to small self-organised groups, so there are groups that meet in our spaces every week, delivering various types of reading and cultural activity. We're also a host and curator of collections. Tracy Williams, our archivist and local studies librarian, puts exhibitions up all the time and hosts a range of different exhibitions and sessions for local history groups. We've just managed to acquire some very important items which we're hoping to put on exhibition and on show in 2026. So we do have quite a strong base in the area and are recognised for a lot of the heritage and local studies things that we do. We like to support our communities in identifying their sense, their geography or their community or their specific place. And there's lots of work going on with local groups to help define communities of interest and communities of space. We're also key to bringing books alive through culture. So some of the things I think some of my colleagues have talked about, we've done the same. So we've had things like bards who have gone round the various sites in the borough, you know, promoting and speaking works and acts of Shakespeare, which kind of brings the content alive in a different way, which also helps us attract different audiences. One of the things that we're really keen on and have been key to advocate for is supporting our small creatives, our artists and creative businesses. So part of our main library in Solihull, which is called the Core, we repurposed a piece of floor space and called it Core Creatives. So that space has been dedicated for artists and creatives to use to develop, grow, perfect their craft, meet with other people. And my colleague Lisa, who's on the call, also hosts drop-ins, coffee mornings, workshop sessions for those artists and creatives to help them move on their creative journey. We've got access to small meeting spaces, digital IT, Mac computers, and a rehearsal space. And it really was an opportunity for us to kind of like repurpose the main space here and bring it over to give it more of a cultural focus. And we get great feedback from the people that use that space. I mean, I'm sitting in the room today next door to a gentleman who's rehearsing his Christmas songs. So if you do get a bit of that, I can only apologise. So, but they're used by lots of different people all week long, including our music service, who use it of an evening to deliver music lessons to children and young people. In terms of West Midlands region, the West Midlands region, like the libraries in the West Midlands region also come together as a collective. Some of the people who are on the call today, I think Kate Earle from the Arts Council, attend our meetings. We've also got West Midlands Readers Network who are on the call today, who are coming to talk to us next week. We regularly meet in pursuance of developing and growing the library service in our region. We also do joint work together in terms of developing, monitoring and social return on investment models. We're currently working at the moment on a health and wellbeing return on investment model for our library offers, and have accessed some external funding to fund somebody to work with a university to develop and grow that. In terms of our offers, the libraries across the region are delivering 5 universal offers, including culture. And again, I'll put that in the chat that the universal cultural offer has just been refreshed. So there'll be something going up on Libraries Connected National's website to show the world and everybody about what we're trying to achieve in terms of supporting culture through our library spaces. The libraries in the region are very different. You've got your very large authorities with multiple libraries. You've got libraries that are run solely by volunteers. You've got people delivering what they call a statutory library service offer, but are also moving into the realms of delivering a lot of other activity which falls under the cultural wellbeing banner. There's a range of delivery models which are helping libraries widen participation and access within their unique community areas, specifically really going down to a small micro community area, as well as trying to attract people in their wider region. Digital's been a big thing for libraries over the last 10 years or more, so growing digital content. In some of our spaces at the moment, we are offering things like Wi-Fi print, so you can drop a print from home and come and collect it in your library space, which is really good for creatives who are maybe home working and only want to come into our spaces for a particular purpose. Our challenges as a library collective are, if you like, trying to integrate with all the networks that exist in the region. Libraries touch everybody's lives, whether you are public health, whether you are a charitable organisation, whether you are, a cultural organisation. So libraries sort of sit across trying to support lots of different strategic or regional objectives. And so finding the time is a bit of a challenge for all of our members to try and get into networks and really be able to have a view, have a say and make a difference. We obviously advocate about books. That's our primary. It's about reading, it's about literature, but we're also about doing that in different ways. We appreciate that a portion of the population don't just pick up a book. That's not their first thing, but they will go to other genres and other things first. And our place as libraries is to bring things alive. And one of the things that we've talked about in our group recently is about getting more wider recognition from, say, the Combined Authority about how libraries do contribute to the cultural scene, the economic scene, the wellbeing scene. And we are still working through that with them, through our colleagues in our own authority areas, but also championing things through Libraries Connected, which is the national body for libraries. Yeah, I think that's it from me. If anybody wants to know a bit more about the regional libraries work, I'm happy to talk to anybody. If you would like to come and talk to the region as a whole, so there's work that you're doing that you think the library region would benefit from understanding more about, and happy to receive calls and emails from people. And our network is the starting point for some of our collaborations and our continued partnerships. So please come and talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, Lucy, Sue, and thank you to Kerry as well. Absolutely fantastic to hear about all of the fantastic work that's happening in libraries. I've definitely worked in libraries in the past and kind of connected in with them, but it's really interesting to see what a wide scope and how many artists, or I'm listening to know the things that you're talking about, how many artists or kind of practices that have been connected into. So I think you've definitely demonstrated how that kind of fits into that wider ecology. Has anybody got any questions for people on the call? Don't be shy. Did I see somebody? Oh, there we go. I wonder if the library team could talk about how the National Year of Reading might be playing in. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to come in as well. Kate, do you want to start? Because I feel like you might know a bit more than me, and then I'll come in if there's anything else I know.
So it's funny you should mention that. So our planning around the National Year of Reading started just over a fortnight ago. There was a group meeting to discuss how we might want to deliver it. Our colleagues have gone back into with their respective teams. There's significant buy-in from our libraries in terms of wanting to do things in all geographies, wanting to do things digitally, and wanting to do things with a cultural slant on that brings culture alive and brings reading and literature alive for our local residents. And I'm just trying to scrabble through my emails now to look at what were the things that people said last week. And we recognise that as well, it's going to be a bit of a challenge trying to deliver that with the funds that we've got available. So we will be approaching Kate, who's on the call, to see what the opportunities are, to try and see whether we can add some value with Arts Council money with the delivery that we've got planned. But we're really keen that it touches all people's lives and all of Solihull during 2026.
Good to know. Thank you, Kate. Does anybody else want to add to that? Lucy, is that you?
Yeah, I just want to say I've put in just because people might be like, what is the National Year of Reading? So it's only recently been announced that 2026 will be the National Year of Reading, and it involves lots of different partners. And I've just put a link in to the chat so that everyone can see what we're talking about. There's a lot of more information still to come. I think there's kind of 3 focus areas, which is one is around kind of families reading together in early years. There's also a focus around the kind of 11 to 17-year-old boys, and then yes, it's an early years, a family focus, and then a focus on those boys of young boys, that sounds really funny, doesn't it? 11 to 17-year-olds and reading. So yeah, just to give you an understanding of what the National Year of Reading is, but we're all still working on it kind of collectively and individually.
I think the same goes for us in Staffordshire. We're still sort of developing our ideas, but we've identified that family reading and the linking with the early years, and also the young people and boys and work with schools are going to be really quite important for us in terms of really creating that ethos of reading for pleasure and a love of reading right from that very early age.
Thank you. Daryl, you've got your hand up for a question.
Did you say Daryl? Just checking.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, I just was wondering how there's a lot of focus on young people, obviously. I'm wondering how many consistent programs you have for adults and elders in your libraries to engage with the arts, and also whether there's much interdisciplinary work going on between using literacy and language with arts to increase literacy for people who are not native English speakers. And I also wanted to hear if anybody, I think Kate mentioned something about, or one of the speakers spoke about gathering together arts practitioners. I just wanted to hear about if anyone has talked about the duty of care for arts practitioners who are trying to survive on these one-off sort of frameworks where artists are not consistently brought in, and so trying to cobble together, a professional life out of these very short sort of one-off gigs has become a bit of a habit here. So just wondering how you sort of cultivate those artists. Sorry, that was 3 different questions in one, but basically the adult provision and literacy and interdisciplinary work, and then the adult, the duty of care for artists.
Who wants to? So I don't know, is it Kate, where are you talking about the core creatives and how you're supporting those in their work, and then maybe Lucy and Sue talking about the other bits of provision? that way?
Yeah,
Rather
happy
than
to do that. And then I'll bring Lisa in as well, because Lisa can probably talk about what we've got planned for Core Creatives as, over the next couple of months. So Core Creatives was established about trying to create a support package and an offer for cultural individuals and businesses in the borough of Solihull. We'd got a piece of space that we thought might be useful, so we engaged some of those creatives on a journey through what we call conversation culture, to try and see what might be useful for them in terms of developing their content and practice, etc. And really the local authority with its asset being able to think about how it can support artists and creatives more. We designed a space, we moved people into it, and then we talked to them as well about what offer they would like to see wrapped around alongside the physical infrastructure. So I think we've done workshops, we do coffee mornings, we allow people to collaborate, they can do rehearsals. And then what we also do is when they get to a point where those artists want to sort of float something, test it out, there's an opportunity to do that too, whether that's in the main body of the building, whether it's through the studio that we've got. And, you know, in some cases, some of those artists also take their content to other places like Edinburgh Fringe, etc. So that's how we've done that. At one of your sessions recently in Birmingham, I've forgotten in the mailbox, I've forgotten the name of the place. I reconnected with somebody from a past life, which was Ian Mamble from Equity. So we're doing some work. Lisa's picked up the conversation with Ian, and we're doing some work with our creative community about, you know, making sure that they've got a good business plan, make sure they're viable and their rights in terms of artists. And I'm going to hand over to Lisa if she's on there, because I think Lisa could probably say a bit more.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, so what we try and keep with the programme in Core Creators is ensure it's responsive. So I think when we started this, we thought we'd put in these monthly coffee mornings, and as a training programme developed, we thought that they'd drop off. Actually, what we found out is that those monthly coffee mornings are probably one of our most important things. We find that attendance is really good at them. People want that type to connect. You know, I used to be a freelancer. I know that landscape is difficult and lonely, so that we find that time when people just sit around, have a cup of coffee and go, look, I'm struggling with this, how about you, is something that's been really key to actually keeping the programme going. And then that's a time where we really have conversations with people about what they want and need. And there's been everything from, like, people have said, look, I really need help with social media, can we get someone in to kind of look at that? Or you know, we've done kind of a lot of one-to-one business support programs over the last 2 years, which we've put on, which have been a range of different things. And then kind of networks have emerged, networks of playwrights and dancers, and various networks have emerged out of that. People have kind of said, look, podcasting is a thing, so that's come out of it. So what we're trying to do as much as possible is not to pre-lay a programme. There is always one-to-ones, there is always a running business support offer, but we try and make sure we're flexible. So some of our artists have been really worrying about making tax digital. So we've spoken to a company, they're coming in this month to do workshops on making tax digital and stuff. So we're aware that the needs of our artists. The other thing that we did is we've linked in all our core creatives with the online app mental health programme that was rolled out last year, and everyone has access to that through Core Creatives, and that kind of gives you things you can access information on sleep or giving up smoking or whatever else are the problems. So that's another offer that comes through our Core Creatives network and support programme.
Thanks so much, Lisa. And then Lucy and Sue, maybe just talking about a couple of those bits of the programme around you know, adult offer. Like I say, and I know you talked a lot about it being that service that goes from I think you used the word cradle to grave, didn't you?
Yeah. So I mean, I think we do this, yeah, in lots of different ways. It'd be great for Sue to come in as well. So in regards to kind of, I guess, that adult learning element to it, and kind of the literacy, I think that for me comes more into our kind of core kind of offer in regards to what we're able to deliver. So we work a lot with, I've mentioned sort of adult and family learning, and those outside providers and agency that have the specialist skills. We have the ESOL groups that kind of meet within our library settings. We make sure that we have the collections that are accessible and available, whether that's kind of quick reads, whether that's books in different languages, hence the kind of also the digital provision that we're able to offer. and it's like, it's the signposting, it's that safe space to come and be and to come and meet, and things like trying to kind of sort of encourage people to read in different genres, and things like the book bingo I was talking about, and that kind of the reading for pleasure element, which I think can sometimes get a bit kind of, yeah, a bit lost in that. And then I don't know, Sue, do you want to come in? I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, I was thinking, I absolutely echo what you're saying around the ESOL classes and working with our adult and community learning tutors to run different classes, but also we've got groups that are using the library space for conversation groups, so people that will just come together to practice conversation. We've also got reading aloud groups as well, like poetry reading aloud groups, and then something that we've got at Burton Library is we have makers markets in the library, and we have about 4 a year, and these are really for people who want to test out if there's a market for their craft, and if so, can they make a living from it as well. So it's very much for those new makers really to test. We've got things like craft groups for adults, we've got knit and natter groups, we've got lots of different groups that are run by volunteers. So if somebody approaches us and says, oh, I'd like, I really enjoy crochet, can I set up a crochet group in the library? We would support them, we would find them the space, and we would help them promote that as well. And also we've got we have talks. We've got, at the moment, we're in the midst of Staffordshire History Festival, so we've got libraries that are running lots of as well as activities for children, lots of evening and afternoon talks for adults, with visiting speakers, visiting authors. Our archive service as well is supporting that. We've got a book chat online, which is open to anyone, so not just people living in Staffordshire. We've got people who live abroad who participate in that, and we have visiting authors promoting. We work with the publishers, with the authors promoting their books. And we've also got as well a poet laureate role. In Staffordshire, it's a 2-year role, and that role is about promoting the poetry scene across Staffordshire, and the poet laureate mentors our young poet laureate as well, which is really good. So I think it's very much been about what Kate and Lucy have said, is about, being welcome to anybody who wants to use our library space to promote culture, and to run activities as well.
Thank you, Sue. Right, I think we're going to start to wrap up unless anybody else has got any burning questions. No, I think it's just worth flagging, or just worth noting, in our growth inquiry, we were looking at public investment in arts and culture across the region. And we're seeing quite a significant dip in public investment in arts and culture, and libraries is that is significant for libraries. And I think everything that we can do, just hearing about all of the fantastic work that you do in the communities and working with artists, and how many artists and creatives you work with and for in this region, I think it's just constant that we're constantly kind of advocating for that work and the work that you will do. So yeah, just to kind of give you a little bit of a shout out in that respect. But if we're all talking about that together, then that's only a good thing. If anybody is interested as well in data around participation, that does include participation in attendance at libraries, then we have our Creative West Midlands report, which is really heartening. And we've probably got a few new people on the call. So, we know that sort of 70% of people in our region think that they are a creative person. But then half of the people that we surveyed wanted to do more things to be creative. And I think that's a real opportunity for us all to kind of make sure that we're providing as many opportunities I think the number when we did the workshop was 3 million people that would equate to who want to do more things to be creative in our region. And I think libraries is a real key way of doing that engagement amongst the rest of our wider cultural ecology. So if people want to check it up, Daryl, it will be we've recorded the session, so what we'll do is, rather than trying to send it round to everybody, there will be a link up on our website in the next couple of days, and on our socials, which will show the presentation, so you'll be able to go through it and see it all, and also hear the joy of Lucy's sharing it rather than just the just the words and then just on the screen. Is that okay, everybody? So yeah, feel free to have a look at a Creative West Midlands. We look forward to seeing you next month, and next month we have the innovation unit, which are national sort of innovation think tank, sort of to help us think about workforce. They've done quite a lot of work with us recently around workforce strategy, and we're going to be sharing what we've learned from that and our thinking and next steps with you in November. So see you next month if I don't see you all before.